Welcome back to another episode of How to Make Money with Hard Money. We're here joined by my partner, Caleb Delgado, and our sales team leader, Austin Hughes. So welcome, Austin. I don't think this is your first time on.
First time on. I'm ready.
Awesome. Good to have you.
Great to have you.
So today we just wanted to kind of discuss some deals we had and tell some fun stories, kind of change up the format of the podcast a little bit. Might be some education mixed in, a couple stories, things that people didn't know, but we'll kind of just tell a couple fun stories today.
Yeah, let's go for some clickbait and some crazy, like you said, campfire stories. Let's get to it.
Yeah, campfire stories. I like that. All right, cool. So I think the first one we were going to talk about was a unique deal. You won't see this one on our website as far as terms go.
Yeah.
But it was a Miami deal. Actually, it was multiple states. But we had, I'll frame up the narrative a little bit of what happened.
All right.
A borrower needed about $1.8 million really quickly. It was about 3 business days, I think.
Yeah. 72-hour window.
Yep,
sure.
It was 72 hours from application to closing, title, everything, due diligence, everything in between.
Yep.
The borrower had a sufficient judgment that he was going to get a pretty expensive vehicle repossessed by the city.
A vehicle and a boat.
Yep.
2 things.
Yep. Repossessed by the city because he had a judgment from a failed business, essentially.
Yeah, him and his partner kind of had a little bit of an issue, and then they got this judgment for a failed business. And then here they go as, I need some money.
And numbers-wise, they were going to lose like $4 million in vehicles over $750,000 in judgments, essentially.
Absolutely.
So they needed 1.8 because they had closing costs and other debts to settle.
Yep.
So they came to us and needed cash quickly. So the Florida, most of the equity was in the Maryland properties, right? So there was 2 townhomes in Maryland, 1 condo in Miami.
Right.
The condo had a first position mortgage on it. The condos in Maryland or townhomes were free and clear.
Thank God.
So what we structured was we did 2 first position mortgages in Maryland, and we did a second mortgage on the condo in Miami.
Yeah.
And so that's how we framed it, right?
Right.
Correct me
Yeah.
if I'm wrong there.
So really, it was more like when we peeled back the onion, what did we find? So you have this distressed borrower coming to us needing $1.8 million, and what do we find when we start pulling title and going through the procedure in such a short period of time? That was really the biggest problem for us was, okay, we're going to take this property, which it first started off with, if anybody knows the Porsche building in Miami, a super high-end building. You pull your car in, and it goes a bunch of levels in. But it was a very nice high-end building, but we had to use the Maryland properties to anchor. But when we ran the titles, come to find out there are credit card liens.
Oh, yeah.
There are HOA violations, estoppel issues, all these sort of issues that pop up. And we basically we divided and conquered. You negotiated with
That was
the
your
borrower.
first $1 million deal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he negotiated with the borrower on that one. That was you.
Yeah, but he framed it
he
up.
definitely downloaded the PDFs and put them in the file correctly and labeled them, though, on the processing side. And I know you learned a lot along the way.
Yeah.
But I remember you and I were up in New York, actually. We were in MetLife watching Manchester United Arsenal play.
Yeah.
And we were in the hotel. I think my dad thought we were crazy because he met us up there. And I think you were on the phone with the borrower. I was on the phone with the investor.
Yeah.
Austin was collecting docs with Marta, our processor.
Yeah.
And we were kind of back and forth. Then we were hanging up, calling Phillips, our attorney, and just back and forth for about 4 hours, hunkered down in this hotel room.
Yeah. I mean, because the big things that people really don't see is with these violations that you find when you pull title, it affects the position of our mortgage. And we're not going to be in second position to other lenders or other creditors. So when we yet again get the title report, it's like, okay, we have to close this deal. But right now we were in 3rd position, I believe, at the time.
Yeah.
We had to negotiate the HOA liens. We had to negotiate.
It might have been 4th position because HOA, credit card debt.
And
there was a first position mortgage already on the Miami building. So we were like 4th on that one.
Yep.
So we got it up to 2nd.
Yep. So I went and started negotiating the Amex, the HOAs, and all of that. You started dealing all the title with the title work. And Austin's helping us process and get through this, but me and you are literally at the game and in our hotel, and we're negotiating all this in a 3 to 4 hour window.
Didn't you get that Amex bill down from like 150 to 75?
Yeah, he had like almost $180,000 Amex bill. I got them to settle for, it was like $86,000.
Yeah.
So they settled for that number. The HOA was owed 50.
Saved them $100,000 in credit card fees
right away. And this has nothing to do with why we're actually getting the loan. This is just,
just to clear title.
Just to clear title and also help the borrower out just out of, because we're good guys, right? We're a good company. We try to do everything correctly. But we do that, and me and you are negotiating back and forth, and it takes us the full day to get there. And come to find out, we make it happen. Really?
Yeah, that was a crazy one, just from the speed and all of the different hurdles in a short period of time also.
Yeah, and if anybody tries to ever get a payoff from a company within 24 hours, you'll know how difficult that is to do. Because typically, just rules of thumb to get a payoff from a company, it's a week's time, 10 days time. You can't just get it on the spot of a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I remember it was in this very building, our old office, top floor. And I was just back and forth texting Caleb and Dave and just trying to figure out what I even do in this situation because it was so unique. I think it was my 3rd month full time, maybe. I could put together a term sheet and collect documents and put them in the right folder. And it was a $1.8 million deal. And I was like, all right, I got to throw this to Dave and Caleb. I even remember when you guys were at the game, like you said, you met your dad and you met your brother. Kyle texted me on the side and was like, Dave and Caleb have been on their phones the whole time. Like, what is actually going on? I know it's a big deal, but what's happening? That's so absolutely crazy.
Glad my wife wasn't there.
Oh, yeah, she would have killed us. She would have killed us.
Get off the phone.
But people really don't understand how hard it is to file in different states because you have to file all your loan documents in different states. You have to have a title company that can do it in both states as well.
Yep.
You got to get the title reports.
Two attorneys.
2 attorneys involved in this scenario. Then you have multiple creditors, so more than 4 creditors to negotiate at the same time, and all in a 72-hour window.
Yeah.
We took it down to the wire, but we were able to do it with the knowledge between all of us and our resources and great companies and third-party providers.
That loan's getting satisfied right now. Actually, at the moment, we had a significant pay down yesterday, but we actually even at one point we did like a partial release and added a Lamborghini vehicle on the note there. So it's like just real creative lending in general. I mean, we did have a higher interest charge. I think we charged 15% interest because of the cross collateralization and the second position mortgage.
Yeah.
But I mean, we probably saved. I mean, you alone probably saved him all of his points in negotiating debts.
Yeah, he got a Lamborghini for free, basically with all the debts that we negotiated. That's how it kind of worked out for him. But in the end, that's what we do here. And disclaimer, we're not a debt consolidation company. It's not what we do as a company.
Don't call us for that.
And we're not lawyers. We don't do any of that. It just happens that we know how to negotiate when the time comes.
Yeah, so that was a unique one.
Yeah.
I guess the next one we're going to talk about is somewhat unique too. The third one's probably a little bit more in our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Why don't you kind of frame up the second deal we were going to discuss today?
Yeah, so typical of us, we go to the Valspar event. We're not trying to work at all. We're going to go hang out and just, be friendly and watch people play golf. But come to find out, a borrower David and I dealt with over a year ago, he had a partnership that was failing in a high-end logistics company. So what happened was him and his partner fell out and they stopped paying their mortgage on this company and this warehouse that they had. In this time, the foreclosure, the banks wanted to come in. Well, since the partners couldn't agree to either sell the company or buy it out, what we told them to do was let it go to foreclosure and go buy it back from the bank in another time, and you're good to go, and you don't have to negotiate with your partner if he's being that pig-headed. Well, a year goes by, we don't speak to this borrower. Yeah. We go to Valspar. He's sitting right next to us.
We had one of our investors had a suite or something there, and he was like, David, I got to introduce you to this guy. He needs $1.1 million real quick, Yeah. And I think Valspar was on a Thursday. He needed to close by the next Wednesday or something.
Yeah, it was following week.
Because he had a business opportunity also. The why is always important. He had a business opportunity to capitalize on a unique opportunity. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he's like, hey, and I wasn't as involved in the borrower side per usual. That's more your side. And so you had actually met him. Yeah. And I think you drove did you go to this property?
Yeah, I went to the property. We broke out the paperwork. We went over his loan docs, where he was defaulted in.
Yeah, so you met him.
Framed up the deal. We put his debts in it. And we literally wrote him a term sheet and showed him the blueprint.
And said, do the execute here. And so fast forward, he introduces me to him and he goes, and he's telling me the deal. I'm like, wow, that sounds so familiar. But I didn't meet the guy, so I didn't know. I was like, hey, we don't believe this deal. I started telling you about it. You're like, that's I think his name. He's like, that's him. It's like, hey, what's up, man? You guys kind of started, and then it all kind of unraveled. And so within 5 minutes, I'm out on the phone with the investor who was already very in tune with that deal, and you're talking to him, renegotiating terms.
Yeah, so we negotiated the terms, and I'm saying, hey, did you actually execute on the whole thing? He executed on it. He has his assistant live time start emailing us all the debts negotiated, his ability to purchase his own mortgage back from the bank on the backside. And David, you're out with the investor now that we have all the proof with our attorney that all this was actually executed. You're out with the investor making it happen to get funded.
Yeah, we had approval right there at Valspar too, pending the documents panning out the way we expected.
And then, so we went into that, and sure enough, by the following week, we were done and we were closed.
We didn't even sit down. When we got in that tent, like, you didn't even have the chance to grab food or grab a drink. We walked in, it was a Thursday. I remember even walking in and looking around and all of us were on the phone. Makes it a little bit difficult when you're going on a Thursday, but
we'll put in a picture so everyone sees for proof in the video of us on the phone negotiating this deal.
It looks staged, but it wasn't. But that's what I was saying. Dave didn't even get a chance to sit down, grab a drink, grab food. No. It was, hey, let me introduce you. And then 5 minutes later, I'm looking over like, ooh, Dave might be there for a couple hours. And he was, but I remember walking out that day and looking at each other like, hey.
Paid for our tickets.
I think the tickets just got paid for.
Yeah, no, that was a really great one. And it's just...
But fast forward, they didn't get paid for it, and we didn't end up closing because... So what was the reason we didn't close that?
Well, the reason was it's typical of clients that they find an alternative route once you give them the blueprint. And as far as the funding goes, we made it happen, but there was one debt that he didn't see through.
Yeah, I thought it was a title issue.
Yeah, it was a title issue, but it was one debt that he didn't see through, and he kind of forgot about it because it was part of the partnership. He didn't know that debt was there. And it got
attached to the property, and we couldn't clear that.
Yeah.
And so the LTV just didn't work out.
It didn't work out, and we passed on it in the end. But we saved...
Great story for a loan that didn't close. I think that's actually, we got a second one of those. Yeah. Sometimes the applications and the stories that don't close are more interesting, or equally interesting, I should say, as the deals that do.
Well, it doesn't stop us from doing our job, right?
Yeah.
We still dedicated our time, and we still attack it all the same. We give it all the same effort, whether we make money or don't, but we made it happen. And I believe at this point, if he ever sees us and knows who we were talking about, you got it done somewhere.
I mean, I would say it hasn't changed, at least from what I've seen. It hasn't really changed the way that we've approached files either. We understand that there's files that we are absolutely going to spend hours and sometimes days on that don't end up going through. But I think it's important for us to all look at each other at the end of the day and say, we did all the right things. We did exactly what we said we were going to do for the client. And even if they don't decide to close with us, or for one reason or another, the deal doesn't close, they walk away with all good things to say about DKC lending.
Yeah.
And I think that's a perfect way to start the third deal that we planned on talking about.
There you go. Why don't you frame that one up?
Yeah, a deal that came in, I think it was in Bradenton. This guy had significant equity in a single family property. Yep. He had recently gone through a divorce. He was looking to take some cash out of that property. We were going through the process. We thought everything was going to be quick and easy. Yep. Again, had a lot of equity in that property. And I believe it was when the title came back, he was mind blown that there was a lien that was placed on his property here in Bradenton, Florida from...
Colorado or something?
Yeah, from Colorado, a business that he had tried to open in Colorado. And it just so happened that COVID hit 2 months after he tried to open this business. He said he was in the storefront for just about a month.
Yep.
So we had no idea that it could get attached to this property. So now we're looking at each other like, well, this deal doesn't work. The numbers simply don't make sense. The LTV is way too high.
Debt, roughly? It's like 180.
Yeah, was it 175, 180?
Yeah, I said 175, 180, I think was the debt. And then there was also smaller debts between, violated lease, contractor NOC liens on the property during the construction from the commercial asset. So you had a bunch of little things, but the major one was a COVID lien that he got because COVID was really why he shot, the company couldn't open.
Right.
And
you're going to have to give another disclosure about how you're not a debt consolidator as the story progresses.
Yeah, as the story progresses, not a debt consolidator, but you can continue going.
Again, the numbers just didn't make sense. At that time, we went back to, I guess what we're all finding out Caleb's pretty good at is negotiating this debt.
You got a credit card bill, call Caleb.
I think in a lot of times we could say, oh, sorry, the deal doesn't work. The debt's too high. I think a lot of people might even do that in that situation. I'm not going to spend my time on this, but we made that call, right? You made that call to, whoever we could negotiate that debt with, and days of back and forth conversations, you got it to a point where the deal might work. The guy decided to take, some money is better than no money, we always say. Yep. He decided to take, I think it was like 35, 40 grand.
Yeah, no. So the end payoff, so there were several, but it was a $185,000 judgment. We got that down to $26,000, and I was talking with his attorney.
$160,000, $155,000
just wiped away. And then we went into that, and then he had some contractor liens that he had. So the attorney that he was dealing with called them up and got me in touch. So we negotiated those for 50%. Right. So the total debt that was in like the 200, high 200 range. I think we ended up settling it all for 50 grand, which was, I guess in this case, shot us in the foot because it was too good to be true.
Yeah.
And what did he do?
Yeah. No, and then we got it to a point where, wow, perfect. The deal works. I remember being all excited, getting the new term sheet out to him, ready to go, collect a couple final documents, and we'll close the deal. But Caleb did such a good job that this guy was basically like, well, thanks for getting my debt down to where it's in a position where, actually, I don't need you guys. I'll just have my friend step in and help me out.
Yeah.
So that came to a surprise as us, but I think it goes back to what I was saying. I think we locked in, we did all the right things, helped the client out, put him in a position to get the cash that he needed to do whatever he planned on doing. And he decided that his friend could step in and help him out because his friend had that money.
That was the greatest $550 application fee ever paid. $550 application fee to save $160,000 and then give us the doves to peace out after. So.
Where can I sign up for that? I give you guys $550 and you go negotiate $170.
Yeah, that's not on our website.
Yeah, it's definitely not on our website, but it shows, yes, we're here to put our best foot forward and always be there for our clients.
That's great. I guess we didn't kind of plan to tell one more story, but I see that I think we're only like 16 minutes in, so we can definitely tell one more. Maybe the closing that's going down today.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tight timeline here.
Yeah, tight timeline. So the deal going down today that we will have to close, actually the closing time's at 3 p.m. signing time today.
And there's a lot of moving pieces still.
Yeah, many moving pieces. This is a return client, and he's collateralized, true asset lending in this case. He has free and clear assets that do have some contracting liens and stuff like that, but it's really the turnaround time.
Well, and he didn't know, right? Because if I could interject, he just purchased the 2 properties in March with cash, didn't get lien searches. So we're finding out this morning, that he has expired permits. Right. That were not from him, were from previous purchase or from whoever he bought it from.
Yep.
Also, we had one of the properties on the water. We have some insurance issues to kind of get through, which I think we've solved those at this point. But we got this file on Friday, and so we're going to close this in five business days, $1.2 million essentially on two piece of property with expired permits and some insurance issues.
And started with 3.
But I think the biggest challenge for us today, because it's on the expired insurance or expired permit front, would be kind of, what do you do with an expired permit, right? That's kind of interesting.
Right. That is the interesting part. And because we have Mike able to assist us, who's also the LC on this deal.
Yep.
So we're going in to talk to the city, find out the process to solve these open permits and close them out. And we're going to bring the solution to the investor, to the borrower, and map out how we get through that. But after the fact, we're going to do a holdback. Yeah,
the borrower must close today either way. So we're closing without one lien search. We're missing an HOA estoppel. So we're going to do a holdback for both of those 2 items. Then the 2 expired permits, I think we have a payoff around $4,000 for one of them. The other one's around $11,000. But,
yes, exactly.
But you have to... But that number could accrue. It could increase. It's not an official payoff letter. And I think we need to open a permit, get an inspection done to then close the permit. So Mike, as you said, is going to assist us with that process. But typically title companies will hold how much back on, like, let's say it's an $11,000. It is $11,000. How much will they hold back?
Yeah, 2 to 3 times. 3 times is really kind of what they'll hold back in escrow to make sure they don't.
So just looking at that one, you're looking at almost $30,000 as a holdback just on the one expired permit.
Right.
So $1.2 million might only get funded 1.15. Might have to hold $30,000 to $50,000 back.
Right.
But to be determined, I guess, because we're going to get out of this and figure out what the true path is from the city.
Yeah, and the biggest part is having a lender that understands how the position works as far as their liens on the mortgage. Because these enforcement will be ahead of us. So we have to get these things done and
have to get them cleared.
Yeah, although it's a tight timeline, our job isn't done in 5 days. We have to see this through. We have to make sure we make the other timelines. And it goes to people buying real estate. When you're buying real estate, make sure that the property truly is clear.
Yeah.
He bought this piece.
You got title. Title was clear, but the lien searches, especially when you buy with cash, I mean, most times people don't get a lien search when they're buying with cash. Because it's typically the lender that requires it.
Yep.
But I mean, having Mike go above and beyond and for our investors, right? Because how can we close a deal with no estoppel, no lien search on one of the 2 parcels and the 2 expired permits? It's not very easy. Most lenders would say no right away.
No, it's called denied.
Yeah, it's called denied.
It's called denied.
But we like the deal. We like the assets, and we understand how to get them cleared, and we're willing to, hold back. The borrower has to close one way or the other. So there is no, if it was like, oh, we could do tomorrow, deal's dead.
Yeah.
So
we're understanding of the borrower's situation for their investment. I mean, he's set to lose a lot of money if he doesn't get this.
Yep.
So we accommodate and we make the adjustments with our team and our knowledge and our resources.
I think you got to add the fact that we couldn't get into those properties either. So yesterday we shout out Ryan Wall and his team at Hello Home Inspections.
Yeah.
I'm texting him on the side outside of a group chat, like, Ryan, if you don't mind, please, like, get as close as you can to those windows and try to see the inside. And
Because I told you, I said the deal's dead immediately if we don't get photos inside.
right. And I could imagine, I know Ryan goes out to a lot of properties, but if there's neighbors and Ryan's out there trying to snap photos
Not normally
through
acting as a peeking Tom.
Yeah.
Normally.
snapping photos through the window can feel a little bit weird, but I remember I showed you the pictures yesterday. He's like, "Wow, he got in." And I was like, "No, he didn't. These are great photos from the outside. He found all the angles." So
good stuff.
Another thing that came up in this is couldn't get into those properties.
Yeah.
And he got out there yesterday. We texted him in the morning, got out there at 4:00 and made it happen for us.
Well, thanks you he risked his life because what happened? What did he text you? He texted you.
He was nervous to peek through the window.
He's like, someone's gonna pull a gun on me. He's like, who's gonna pay me if I get
Don't
shot?
worry, he's out of country. You're good. That's great. And hopefully this one will not be like the previous two stories. And this one will end in a closure today. So
yeah, no, he will close, this gentleman.
awesome.
But that's good.
All right. Well, different format today. A little bit more low key. It was good to have you on, Austin. I'm glad you got to be on here. I know you'll be on again.
Appreciate it.
And I got to tell some campfire stories.
Yep, and I'll still end with my disclaimer. We're not debt collectors.
You gotta say it one more time, just to be sure.
Yeah, just to be sure we're not debt collectors, but we are creative guys that really want to get your deals done. So don't be afraid to bring them our way.
Yeah, not all deals look like this. That is for sure. There's plenty of those deals that we can get done with no exceptions. And
These are the 1 out of the 100, but they're also often the more exciting stories.
Yeah, we are the team for you to make these things happen.
Yep.
That's for sure.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, thanks to everybody for joining us and another episode of How to Make Money with Hard Money.
Yep. Till next time.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of How to Make Money with Hard Money. Like, subscribe, and follow on all social media platforms. You can catch this podcast on Apple Podcasts and YouTube.